Hi there, and welcome to another episode of 411 Pop Culture, where real people talk about really everything. Well, it's Danielle, Almendra, and I here today, and we're going to be talking about Lifetime's adaptations of Flowers in the Attic, Petals on the Wind, If There Be Thorns, and Seeds of Yesterday. Released 6 years ago. Boy, we're getting old. So true. But, we had some success with our Lifetime Steele series, and I wanted to do, has been on the list for a while to do, so we're going to do a two-part series of the Dollanganger adaptations. We'll compare the books, we'll compare the 87 movie, but mostly it'll be fixated on the Dollanganger Foxworth series. But let's dive right in. Don't forget though, if you like what you see, please comment below, please give us a thumbs up, or please, as I will always beg, subscribe. But we're gonna do part one right now. Now, I feel like in this version, we've talked about in the past on other episodes, the music, etc., the sort of atmosphere. I think overall they did a nice job. And I think you and I are going to have some serious criticisms. We're super fans of the novels, but I think overall they did a good job.
Yeah.
I think like there was some parts of it were rushed production, like behind the scenes. They realized, hey, wait, this is going to be successful, so let's adapt the other novels. I know that we wish they had adapted the prequel Garden of Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I still have some problems with Garden of Shadows because it was half written by V.C. Andrews, half written by the ghostwriter, Andrew Niederman. But I do think they did a nice job. It is more of a sanitized CGI atmosphere as opposed to the gothic atmosphere that the 87 movie really did capture, and of course from the novels. But I think it was just kind of funny because it's like they traded in some of the atmosphere to give you all the incest, give you all the sex. And I feel like along the way through these movies, as much as I did love them, and I do go back and rewatch them occasionally, I think we lost some of like the ghostly, gothic dark fairy tale elements for like the more sex, the incest, and that sort of stuff. But what are some of your initial impressions jumping in?
Well, I know when we first started Flowers in the Attic, the movie, my first criticism, and again, I want to preface this by saying that I absolutely loved all of them. I mean, anytime you see one of your favorite books on screen is a joy. The house, it's not Foxworth Hall.
And if I can just say, even Jeffrey Bloom said, I talked to him about it, the 87 Flowers Act, and he was like, in my dream, or I read an article where he's like, I would have loved to have done even a smaller house. And I remember that was one of the few things where I was like, no. The big house was right.
Yeah.
Like, I think they got it in the 87 version, maybe even a little bit bigger. It's not a castle like Farthingale Manor is supposed to be, but it is supposed to be this, like, magnificent house.
They have wings.
Yeah.
And then when you see it, they're kind of walking up to it, you're just, I know I was let down.
Yeah.
I mean, and then it's the same house they used in the other series.
The Castile series. That's what I was saying on the one episode I think I mentioned where I was like, it looks like Farthingale what they use, which is even more incorrect in my opinion. Right. I feel like by Seeds of Yesterday, and we'll talk about it when we get to that episode, but I feel like at least they started to get like not the house itself, but like the grounds correctly. Yeah. Like when you're watching Flowers in the Attic and when she comes back in Petals on the Wind, it's like this barren wasteland almost of some like grass and then the house. Okay. And this house is supposed to be up on a hill, looking down. It's in a cul-de-sac, but like not like a suburban cul-de-sac, like a huge area looking down. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that in the house.
For sure. And then, you're expecting them to walk in, but I did think about it too, is that they do kind of sneak in the back way, don't they? Like by the kitchen or something. So you're not actually really walking in the front, seeing that grand staircase and everything
which
like
is
that.
misleading because they have Foxworth Hall printed above the door.
Right.
Which I don't think you would put on the back, but I don't think that Olivia would have had that on there anyway.
No, right, absolutely.
Right.
I think they did a really good job with the room. Mm-hmm. But I think the attic was way too small.
Way too small. Again, they weren't supposed to have access, even in the novel, to every part of that attic, but they had a lot. Yeah. And there was like a schoolroom. Here it was like 6 small rooms put together, and it said it's supposed to be like this huge open space with like rooms going out, because again, it's supposed to be wings. Even Kathy mentions in the novel, you can tell where like the older section of the house is to what they built on, because they're clearly like outlined.
Right. I mean, it reminded me of my grandma's attic. You know what I mean? Like, it did not look like a big, magnificent attic that you could get lost in.
Like when Kathy's dancing, she can barely
Yeah.
even she could do like 2 little steps. Hi, I'm right here.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it was supposed to be like she had like a ballroom.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's what I always envisioned. Clutter, definitely. But these were definitely too small.
So, what about you?
Well, I think that overall the performances were good, and I'm sure I will keep saying this through Flowers in the Attic, Petals on the Wind, and If There Be Thorns. I really think that, like, Heather Graham kind of got maligned at the time. She did a lot of criticism for her performance, but I like it, and I like it more the more I watch it. She really went for that campy atmosphere, that sort of campy style of, like, over-the-top, dramatic. Now, when you see it next to, like, Ellen Burstyn, who I think was bitten by that bug, where she became more campy, especially by Petals on the Wind. But I really like the performance. Like, by If There Be Thorns, we still quote all the time, John Amos, where she's, like, screaming that stuff. But she has those eyes and those crazy eyes. But it doesn't, I think the problem is that it almost doesn't work in these films because where the story is this, like, grand, dark fairy tale, this is more documentary style. Like, it's very, like, it's not a documentary, but, it's very, like, flat. Like, you've got the story, you've got the elements, but so she's so popping out that she seems off. But by If There Be Thorns, I really love what she did with it. And you can see it through Petals on the Wind. But Ellen Burstyn's great, but I think in another episode you mentioned that she's never going to be Louise Fletcher.
No. I was just thinking it as you were
speaking. Yeah, nothing towards Ellen Burstyn.
No, she did a great job.
Obviously, Ellen Burstyn's an amazing actress.
Yes.
But you said, too, that you were frightened, and I'm still frightened when I see Louise Fletcher come on. And
still.
I will say one problem that I did have, specifically with Ellen Burstyn, not comparing her to Louise Fletcher, the moment, I think it would have been far more effective, the whole little necklace thing she steals, or the promise ring from Kathy. I get what they were trying to do, but she's kind of like, I think she should have just said, should I make myself more clear? But instead she added that little fist to it, and I was like, I don't know, it didn't work for me. It was a little cringy.
I think she probably added that. That sounds like something the director would have added.
Possibly, but it is her performance.
It really took it away.
Talk about that. But I was like, that's right there. It's too on the nose. So you have to then decide: are we going to be on the nose campy, or are we going to be this is a real story that we're coming to?
I don't really see the grandmother as physical like that.
Yeah, I mean, we might think of it. She's a what?
She's a whipper.
Yeah, I mean, in the novel, that's what she used, a hairbrush. After her whip broke, sort of thing. But, I think that may be some of this might be contagious or stuff left over from the 80s movie, because she was slapping him around in that movie, and there were a lot of slaps in that movie. And before, I would like to talk about it later, but I'll probably forget. So what I'll say now, too, is the whole problem with this, too, is the timeline throughout the 4 movies gets messed up.
Yeah.
In Flowers in the Attic and Petals on the Wind, it's been 2 years that they've been locked up there.
Yeah.
But in If There Be Thorns, Kathy is screaming, you locked us up there for 3 years.
Right.
Which it's 3.5 years almost that they're up there. But I feel like, again, that these problems, and I told Danielle, I'm not going to tell you here, maybe one day, but I do, Lifetime, have an excellent idea, or Charles Fries, who has, like, always been behind the scenes of all these movies. I have a great idea that would solve so many of your problems. Without going into it, do you agree that what I was telling you about the, like, looking out the window thing? It
will help, yeah.
Like, it's a way to solve the problem, and I know that it's become, like, a thing for Kathy's hair to be cut off in these movies now, but I think, like, a good one thing I'll tell you guys is that
her hair was never cut off.
Well, in the book it wasn't. Yeah, just the front was cut off. But I get it, for, like, a visual thing for the audience to be like, whoa. It's definitely an easy way to, like, show the audience how horrible things are.
Yeah.
But, like, I think they could still cut her hair. They don't have to cut it as short, but I kind of did the math. Like, you have them up there for the first year. By the end of that first year is when her hair gets cut. Even though it's not supposed to happen to the second year.
Right.
Have it at the end of the first year. Have a couple scenes with her short hair. But then by the third year, it's, like, grown mostly back out again. By the end of almost 3.5 years. So it'd be, like, 2.5 years of growth. And that way you can still have the kids. Because my problem with it, why I mentioned this, obviously we talked about in the Steele series, hair was a big thing. Yeah. It's different for this. I just feel like it makes them look way too much younger.
Yeah.
Like, I think it makes them look way young, and I don't believe when Chris throws off a line like, does Kathy still look like a child? I'm like, oh, she kind of does still look like a child.
Well, right, because when they leave there, aren't they 15 and 17 when they leave?
That's when they're supposed to get there. Kathy's 12,
she
he's
looks
14.
12. She still looks 12.
And I think the hair makes her look, with it short, makes her look too much younger.
Yeah.
And the thing I was actually going to say is unrelated to the hair. I feel like I really loved, and maybe it's because I love the 80s version of the confrontation where she's like, take Corey to the hospital, that sequence. I felt like it didn't make sense to me. Like, Heather Graham is obviously very tall, Kiernan Shipka's shorter, and I felt like they should have done something where, like, even if they just kind of fudged the film so that she looked a little bit taller, Kiernan Shipka, because it looks too unrealistic that Heather Graham kind of hits her. Like, she would have knocked that girl down. But then all of a sudden, you know, from like way down here, Kiernan Shipka's Kathy's like punching up, and I'm like, it doesn't hit me. So yeah, I think like, I'm tired of them messing up the timeline. And I think it could be solved very easily, and I don't know if they're overthinking it or underthinking it. And again, my other big problem will always be that this adaptation did not once mention that the grandfather would disinherit it if they were found out, if they found out about the kids. This movie never mentions that, and it's like, what's her motivation? I guess you can kind of like think maybe it's because she can't tell Bart. Like, she's afraid, like, well, how would I tell Bart at this point? I think that's...
But if she has the money, who cares if he knows?
Basically, like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And so, and, you know, she could buy him off technically. But I think, like, there's no real motivation. Never said it once, never, you know, it bugs me because it's a big thing. And in a movie like these, they're already so short, but that takes one sentence.
Right.
You know, one quick sentence. But overall, the performances I did like. I thought the movie was good. It's just little nitpicky stuff.
I liked Chris was good. He was cast well.
I thought he did a really good job.
Corinne, even Ellen Burstyn. Is that her name?
Yeah, Ellen Burstyn.
Oh, good. Yay, I got one right. I think they all did a great job. Obviously, didn't like Kathy, but in my opinion, nobody's Christy Swanson. So...
Oh, see, I did like Kiernan Shipka overall, especially the beginning part of it. Because I think one thing that these movies lost is Kathy with the attitude. Like, Kathy has a lot of attitude. She, you know, and this, I don't know, they keep trying to make her, like, sweet and nice.
Yeah.
First Kathy did, and then finally, by Seeds of Yesterday, which is going off on Melody, she finally you start to see Kathy in there. I'm like, there she is.
Right, yeah.
Because she's not just this sweet princess, you know, she's bitter. She's angry. And Kiernan Shipka, I thought, brought that element to it.
I definitely think Heather Graham really exudes the kind of beauty that Corinne's supposed to have.
Oh, sure.
They did a great job, because I feel like in The Flowers in the Attic from 1987, Corinne, I mean...
Victoria Tennant was beautiful. I don't know what happened. In 1985, when she married Steve Martin, she was gorgeous. Yeah. So I don't know, something about that movie, I have to say, I didn't see that, like, wow, factor.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, I think that was good. My only complaint was really the house. Corey was not the same. He didn't steal your heart.
I feel like it was like traded off actors for cute kids. I think Carrie got it for the most part, what she was supposed to be. But Corey, I don't know. He didn't seem like a shy kid to me. It seemed like a kid who was pretending to be shy instead of somebody that was naturally shy. Like in the 87 movie, I thought Ben Granger or Ginger, whatever his name is, he seemed shy, like a shy, introverted, still waters, run deep kind of kid. Yeah. And this kid was cute. He had that cute factor, but I wasn't like devastated when we lost him or anything. And I don't mean that to be callous or anything, but trying to be critical here, that I missed it.
So when we were watching the movie, I commented to Justin that, when they were leaving the room, when the grandmother and Corinne were leaving the room, that I had really wanted to know what was happening on the other side of the door. Yeah. I mean, even when you're reading the books, you wonder, like, how is this woman out and about, sailing and getting married, going off on, like, a 2-month honeymoon and, like, all this stuff. These poor kids are locked up, and, like, you just kind of want to see, like, did she ever feel bad? Did she ever have moments on the other side of the door where she was, like, upset or felt badly about herself, or like secretly cut herself, or I don't know, something, or she was taking antidepressants, I don't know, anything. Like, did this woman suffer at all? Because you really see going through, and like by the time we get to like If There Be Thorns, like, she wants her family back, she loves them, she doesn't care that her daughter and son are basically living as man and wife.
Well, I have to say too, like I've always wondered that. You know, when I'm reading the books, that's what you're trying to find out. Like what I miss, and we'll talk about. We're about to move into Petals on the Wind, especially with the confrontation stuff. But my favorite of the books is Petals on the Wind, and it's because I'm like hungrily taking in the information that Corin finally reveals from her side of things when Kathy finally reveals all to Bart in front of everybody at the Christmas party. I'm like that's, but that's part of the mystery. So I think it would be fascinating to see, how, I bet the first couple days she cried, she was worried. Then she definitely like felt guilty, so she was mopping up floors and helping out. Yeah. And I think they tried to capture that in this, but then ultimately she becomes a different woman, and I think that Heather Graham did get that. You could see the coldness, and especially some of the lighting. Like there's a scene I know where like she's up in the attic and there's a sort of gray blue lighting. I'll find a picture for this, and she's got the tear coming down. I thought it was really great. But I've always wanted to know what the other side of it. But again, if once we have it, it's the mystery. Now I know you don't watch Twin Peaks, and I'll try not to make this a big Twin Peaks thing, but that's kind of what a lot of people get frustrated with David Lynch's work, is that he leaves a lot of mystery, but it's why we keep going back to it. We always are looking for new clues, and V.C. Andrews definitely had that too. Never is everything all answered. Right. The moment we start to get some answers, like we'll say, just for an example, you'll have Corinne talking about Olivia, but then Garden of Shadows gives us Olivia's story, but then it's also, well, what about his mother, Garland's first wife? Then you want to know about that. So it's like never ending, the mystery. But I do like that we don't know, but yes, I definitely want to know. I think that there's a lot. But like as we, we'll kind of do a final thought, but overall, obviously, Flowers in the Attic was a big event. It was like one of Lifetime's highest rated movies at the time. But
I know you also wanted to touch real quick on the incest scene.
Oh, a couple things. Actually, two things I want to touch about. First, I want to talk about, and they kind of go together, so I'm so glad you said that. Dylan Bruce, who played Bart, he's not what I imagined as Bart, but I thought he did a nice job, especially going through, because he's such
much
a
better
little...
in Petals on the Wind.
Exactly. Yes. For such a small role in Flowers in the Attic, I thought he did a really great job and was exactly on the right note for Bart. Again, not what I envisioned. Right. My best envisionment was always on the back of Seeds of Yesterday, how you saw Bart look as an adult. I'm like, oh, that artist, that's how I always imagined Bart to look, even though it's the son. But I thought he did a great job. But I do want to say, and this is something, this will be kind of our transition over to Petals on the Wind. I thought that the incest in the novel is based on, the rape happens because Kathy kisses Bart. Correct. Now, in that sequence, I really wish, because I think, Kiernan and Shipka did some ballet, so I wish that she had done that scene the way I always envisioned, where Kathy stumbles across Bart sleeping. I always imagined it as a more graceful scene that she almost like dances to him because it would be quieter, and she sort of like gracefully like kisses him and pulls away. So he's in his mind thinking this is like a fantasy thing. But then obviously Christopher finds out, gets upset, rapes Kathy. Now I think that the problem is in this movie, they made it so that that scene was about to happen. He's about to do it, and then he kind of pulls himself back, and Kathy kind of becomes the temptress and is like, it's okay. Like, let's do it. And that
never happened. She always felt bad, at least at the beginning.
Correct, because
she always felt bad.
The reason why is because I don't think that Christopher was her true love. I really think Bart was her true love. And I think that because that's the first man that she kissed. She saw him from the Christmas party, thought he was handsome. I think part of, it's sort of, it's the subtext of the story. And I'm sure some of you are going to disagree with me on this, and that's okay. But, like, I think it's the subtext of the story that a part of her resentment of Corinne, even as her mother, was that she has Bart. She saw Bart, had a crush, because she's always going to think of Corinne as with her father, who she adores, so why wouldn't Corinne everlastingly adore this? Right. So she kind of has a crush on Bart, even from the Christmas party. Right. But then she kisses him. So I think even though she hates her mother and all that she did, and rightfully so, and that's all true, I do think there's another layer that nobody discusses, and that's that because Kathy was in love with Bart. Yeah. And ultimately, these movies in particular, and a big part of Bart's problem in the later novels was that he thought she didn't love his father. And I think that she did. I think that she really did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think, though, like, in this moment, talking about what I want to talk about with the incest was that I felt like they did that because they're so afraid that people would hate Christopher then.
Right.
You know, in the book, you can kind of, you're coming from Kathy's point of view at all times. So even though she's raped by him, she obviously forgives him. She obviously loves him. She empathizes with him because of the situation that they're in.
Right.
But, like, I think that, and that's also the problem with how they handled the character of Kathy. It's like they gave her this forward thing here to be the temptress, but then the rest of the movies, she gets little moments, but she becomes like she always has to be the perfect good.
Yeah.
They're so afraid, it seemed like the writers of these movies, whoever's behind the scenes, the directors, to make Kathy at all look like a jerk, to look like a bitch.
Right.
And you know what? Kathy kind of is.
Right.
You know, and in the best possible way.
Too.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, like as we go into Petals on the Wind, because I think like that's what we lost with this. Kathy, the passion, the fire. She wasn't just like whatever happens.
She never kept
I love everybody and everything. I want it well. Like we got it at the end of Petals on the Wind. Rose McIver finally did it. We get it at the end of If There Be Thorns. We get it at the end of Seeds of Yesterday. But she kind of always is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I want to say about that, because it is going to lead into Petals on the Wind about Bart, because I think that was her true love.
Yeah.
I think that Christopher
I agree.
won in the end.
Yeah.
You know, because we lost Paul, because we lost that. And she was always trying to escape Christopher, but that doesn't mean necessarily she wanted to escape him because she thought that was her true love. She is a compassionate person. She does feel, and she wants to give Christopher what he needs because they went through this traumatic experience. The final little thing I want to mention to transition to Petals on the Wind was that I feel like at the end of the Flowers in the Attic movie, they set up that Kathy has that sort of switch in her hand, and the grandmother sort of challenges her to be like, you can never hit me, you'll always be weak. And that's because it's supposed to be like foreshadowing to Petals on the Wind when Kathy does finally go into the thing, and she again does her little weird psychotic dances that I think would have been really cool to see.
Yeah.
She then, pours melt or hot wax or the candle wax on her, and then she like switches her. That was supposed to be, I think, like that's a real dramatic moment. And then I'm like, you set this up, and then that whole scene, she basically shows the grandmother she's weak because she doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it's supposed to be because we're supposed to like be they're worried that we might not like Kathy. Like I don't know. If they do it right, though, it kind of makes sense that she would. If they did flashbacks to those scenes, and then she was doing it, I think it could have worked. But anyway, what did you think about moving on to Petals on the Wind? What did you think about Petals on the Wind?
So obviously, I loved it. I think they did a really good job with Julian. I disliked the fact that they got rid of Paul at the beginning because it kind of really does throw the timeline off quite a bit. But I know why they left it out, and I can understand because that Paul thing, it was so weird. Anyway, in the books, he takes them in and then she's with him and she's like 15. I don't know. It's funky, but I think they could have played it a little differently. But other than that, I was okay with that. Julian, spot on, but I would have really liked to see them have more success. You only really get to see them dance together one time, and they were supposed to be like this magnificent couple. And you didn't get to see any of that, and that was really disappointing to understand why she was so involved with him, why she stayed with him. I mean, they were a great dance team and everything like that. So I feel like that was really missed. Yeah. To again making her look more weak.
Yeah. I don't understand it. It's like she's a strong character. Yeah. I want to say also with Paul, I think I 100% agree with you. Like I would have loved to have seen if we could have, if we had more time. Right now is when I'll insert that I wish that they had made all of these 2.5-hour movies, meaning 2-hour movies and then a half hour of commercial.
Right.
With that half hour. Now, I will say a big complaint I have with the Petals on the Wind movie is the insertion of this Sarah character to give Christopher something to do, to also sort of set up the risks and stuff.
That's his story.
I'm like, right. I'm like, if fine, then make it a 2-hour, without commercials, a 2-hour movie, because they all end up to be about an hour and a half. Right. Or then that's, if you think about it, if you add up all the scenes with Sarah and stuff, that's probably about 9 to 12 minutes of extra scenes, and that could have done a lot for this movie, because I also thought it was really good. I would have loved to have seen some Paul stuff. I'm fine the way they did it. Fine, we jump ahead. It streamlines things, but it's kind of like, okay, if we're losing Paul, let's lose him to give some of the other stuff from the novel then a go.
Yeah.
Not just add in a new character and a new storyline for Christopher, who I think Wyatt Nash did fine. You mentioned he was a little stiff.
He was, but he looked the part.
He looked the part.
He looked the part.
I also thought he was a little stiff too.
The part.
But he definitely did. Yeah, no, 100%. I know I don't know if we agree or disagree on this, but I thought that's the cast that looks the most like how they're supposed to look. Kathy, I thought she had that kind of beauty that's sort of irresistible. You compared to the other actresses.
I already told you. Christy Swanson's Kathy.
Okay, we can't have Christy Swanson.
I know.
But I will say here that I thought it would have been a great idea to have had Christy Swanson play Corinne. When I first watched these and Heather Graham was cast, I'm like, Heather Graham's going to be amazing and looks great. Yeah. But I thought it would have been really cool to see Christy Swanson play Corinne, because right before this was in 2014, in the late 2000s, mid 2000s, she was playing some villainous characters or characters with some questionable morals, and she still looks terrific. Compared to the others, they're all great looking people.
Carrie
don't misunderstand me. Don't misunderstand me. They're all great looking people. The other Kathys.
Yeah.
But this Kathy really looked like kind of how I pictured at least a Petals on the Wind Kathy. Yes, but I definitely think Christy Swanson would have looked great. But I do want to real quick keep responding to what you said about Paul and Julian, and particularly with the dance. I'm like, what I said is, if we're going to lose Paul, the timeline, but one problematic element is that they start off then they're about 25. Because if it's 10 years after the attic, they left when Kathy was 15, so she's about 25. To be starting New York ballet at 25 is a little bit too late. For an actor and stuff, that's one thing, but when you're in the ballet, the dance world.
Sure.
So I just wish that we had started the film, that if you're going to jump 10 years ahead, we're going to lose Paul. I don't know if they thought maybe for dramatic purposes, like let's introduce Julian here and here. I thought it would have been great. Why not have it just introduce, again, Lifetime, I have a great idea that would again solve this problem for also Petals on the Wind.
Right.
Actually, all of them. In fact, every adaptation, this one little thing would solve all these problems. But have them be a little bit more further along. Have Kathy be successful.
Right.
That's the part of the novels that it makes you as a reader feel like she's getting her revenge.
Well, and to that point, that's the whole point of Petals on the Wind. The story is about Kathy. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You have one chapter, maybe two devoted to Carrie.
Yeah.
Chris is next to not even
I liked
in
what
there.
they gave to Kathy, or still gave Carrie the owl thing. Yeah. Give Chris one other thing. But I'm sorry, they tried to make Chris look like this, chivalrous knight. He in the books, she accuses him of sleeping with lots of girls, and he doesn't deny it. He's kind of off doing his thing.
Yeah.
And
but the story's not her.
But it's about Kathy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's from her point of view. It's her with Julian in New York. It's about her with Bart and their love affair.
Even seeing now in this story, we get to see a little bit. We get to see a little bit of the other side of the door, because we do see some of what's going on with Bart and Corinne. Yeah. And I thought that was all good and that sort of stuff. But also, I also really liked what happens with Carrie and Corinne. I'm glad we got to see that scene. But some of my favorite scenes from the novel, this again is my favorite of all the books.
Mine too.
I really I wish the kids were too young still.
Yep.
Again, I don't know why they kept doing that. You have this big dramatic arc of Julian and how he dies and stuff, but then it's and then 10 months later. Why not 2 years later? What difference would it have made? Right. And then you would have had Jory being about the appropriate age. He should have been about 3. I'm why not just do 3 years later? Why just 10 months? So you're telling me that she just was in this wreck, just did this, just had this baby, she doesn't have a bruise on her or anything, and she's teaching dance again? I don't think so. I don't think so. So yeah, it just messed up the kids in the timeline. Yep. And as I mentioned this to you, but you really hammered down the dates. That messes up a lot for If There Be Thorns. They're supposed to be younger, much younger. Yeah. But older in Petals on the Wind. And some of my favorite scenes are because I love the moment where you have this sort of juxtaposition. Carrie confronts Corinne, and it goes horribly, but then there's a scene later on where Kathy's in the post office with Jory, and he's sort of tugging on Corinne's thing. They accidentally come across, but unlike Carrie, Kathy's I don't need anything to do with you. She's she gives the look Some people, she's kind of like, some people don't deserve to have kids. And like, I love that the way that passage ends, because Jory's like, why didn't you like her? And Kathy, her internal narration's like, it was on the tip of my tongue to say something to my son that he would never forget, you know? And that's the Kathy that I love, the sort of like, you know.
Fire.
Yeah, and it's all leading to this confrontation. And like we said earlier in this episode, Bart did a really nice job. I thought Julian was fantastic. Not perfect, but for this edition. Right. But everything in this movie, because of their adding in the Sarah storyline, this fiance thing, she was fine. She was a great actress. I enjoyed it for what it was, but not at the cost of losing the things we lost. And I feel like it was really rushed, where this is their opening night, their success. Bam, you find out he's doing stuff with Carrie. Right. Bam, Christopher and Julian get a fight. Bam, there's a car thing. Bam. And it is supposed to be soap operatic. It is supposed to be over the top and all that. But I feel like it could have been. I loved it. It's my favorite novel, favorite adaptation. Yeah. But it still was so rushed, and it could have been just all that stuff still there, but smoothed out a little if you just took out the Sarah stuff.
So the last thing I'm going to say about both of them, because we had, with the Steele series, we really talked about the hair thing. And I know you might not think it's significant, but as a woman, I mean, maybe you will, but as a woman, to me, the Christmas dress should have been green.
Oh, 100%. Okay. I put that in my notes. No, and it's funny because the 1987 version paid attention to that dress. Yes. There's like promotional shots of Victoria Tennant dressed in that green dress chiffon. And that should have been, like, I don't understand why we choose this. Like, it was clearly they remembered and put the same dress, put her in the same dress and stuff. But I'm like, why? And they even, what's weird is they gave her the emerald jewelry to go with this, I don't know, was it a flesh colored dress? I mean, it was so like unremarkable.
Gold. It was gold.
It was such an unremarkable dress. But they gave her this, the green jewelry, and I'm like, well, no, they gave her the right jewelry. Wouldn't that be more expensive, even if it's fake, than getting a green dress that looks right? But no, that was a big deal to me. But and leading up to the whole revenge stuff, it happened so fast. I feel like this movie, I wish, like, if they had started them off, fine, 10 years later, we lose Paul, but starting them in the middle of their career, like, they're famous, Chris is already becoming a doctor, you could devote more time to that. I think, or open up the story. I have a way I want to open it, but a little bit more. Then you could do the Carrie, so that she's still in high school having the drama with her teens. But then, we jump ahead to these kids. And then the second half should be the revenge of her with Bart. Right. All of that. Because, again, one of my favorite lines in the novel, in Petals on the Wind, is when she's, like, waiting for Bart to come one night to the little cottage that she's living in. And she's starting to feel a little insecure. And she's sort of like, I don't know how I let it happen, but I have fallen helplessly, madly, idiotically in love with him. Because I do think that she was really in love with him, and that makes the tragedy all the more significant. The whole revelation, it's done again in maybe like a 6 minute, not even know if it's given 6 minutes of film time from the moment she's in the Foxworth Hall saying, like, Merry Christmas, Mother, here's all my information, to that. Right. And it's unfortunate, because I do think she looked the part, but that was her first part of, like, finally getting to be Kathy in the whole movie.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, sorry.
No.
Because I thought about it. I thought it was weird that Corinne was redoing Foxworth Hall.
Yeah.
Because how does Kathy go back up to the attic? Like, correct. They really messed that whole thing up.
She didn't. Remember, she says to Christopher, she's like, she walled it off. But I was thinking about this the last time we watched it. I'm thinking they just couldn't use the same interiors or something for filming.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, I'm thinking something, like, because it's such an odd thing to have happen, other than to, like, symbolically, it's one of the things that makes Kathy more angry, but I'm like, but who cares? But again, like we said earlier, though, I do wish that Kathy had done some of the sadistic stuff that she did to the grandmother. Again, if they're so worried about making her, like, likable and all this, then fine, give them flashbacks, show what the grandmother did. She kind of deserved something.
Yeah, but everybody who's going to be watching the movies are fans, and they want to see Kathy.
I think so too. I don't even think they have to worry about it. I think they underthought some things, overthought, worried about other things, but overall, I did like it. I thought that the drama was great. I thought I really liked, and I do think, and we'll talk about this in If There Be Thorns, but I think that this cast, the surviving Kathy and Christopher, Rose McIver and Wyatt Nash, I think that it would have been more effective for the final confrontation, If There Be Thorns, with Corinne, to have it be the same cast as those two, because they're in their mid to late 20s at this point. I think it's easier for them to play mid 30s.
Well, it should have only been 8 years later.
Right, and I was just going to say, we got that little end cap at the end, which I will say I was watching with Danielle, we watched with our friend Gina, and they kept getting confused by the Dollanganger line at the end, and I try to explain. I think it's just like to make a full circle, like they're living basically the same lives of their parents, but clearly he changed his name to Sheffield. But again, if you didn't have the whole Sarah storyline, there's no the town knows, woe is me, because at that point, if that's all true, then how did he still become a doctor for If There Be Thorns? Right. I will say that these Steele series often take liberties with, like, they'll say things in an earlier movie that it's like they meant to set up for another, like this whole switch thing with Kathy and the grandmother, but then forget about it. But then like this, they'll also just cover things up, like we were talking about with Toby in the Castile series, where there's no Toby. All of a sudden there's Grandpa in the third movie. We're like, oh, there he is. Right. This one, I feel like they did that too, where they were kind of like, oh, we'll just end it on the Dollanganger. He's not a doctor anymore. He can't be. But in If There Be Thorns, he is. We'll just pretend it didn't happen. That kind of stuff irks me a little, like even as a fan or just if I was watching these regularly. But I'm so glad they made them. I really, you know, and I do think that in If There Be Thorns and all that, they were, you know, I will say, Petals on the Wind is my favorite novel, but we're about to talk about If There Be Thorns and Seeds of Yesterday. And If There Be Thorns, I think, is actually the best of all the adaptations for a lot of different reasons. It's funny because it's my least favorite of all the novels.
Yeah.
But, you know, please stay tuned. We're going to continue talking. We'll probably talk a little bit more about Flowers in the Attic and Petals on the Wind, but stay tuned for episode 2 because we're going to be talking about If There Be Thorns and Seeds of Yesterday. All right. I'm sure I'll mess this up 7 times.
I want to know what it is.
What?
My
Who's your phone? Do you want me to get it?
Yeah.
John Amos.